that paper went around on the appointment to the case management and mental health disability services board of directors. Don wants to serve them.
I said I would discuss it with you. I want to know what it entails before I commit.
Well,
because they're all smiling at me.
It would be for ISAC. It's the case management agency out there. Their board of directors. I think there were going to be a couple vacancies coming up, and they had sent out the email. I think I attached that to it that Deb had sent, just asking if any board of supervisors were interested in serving on that for a term. And you know, terms probably are at least 2 years. Usually, possibly. And so that's why I sent it up, just for you to review. And I do not know how often they meet. I could sure find out and get you that information.
You could get me a little more information on
yep,
that.
I'll email Deb and get that information back to you then. So, anything else you need to know about? I know prep meetings most likely would be in Des Moines, I'm guessing, just because that's where their office is located. And I can maybe find out times and
that would
like how late in the day, those kind of things.
Yes.
Okay.
If you could find that kind of thing out for me, that would be great.
And how often? Okay. I will sure get that information.
Thanks.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Okay. Going down on the budgeting reviews. Carrie, would it be advantageous to you for us to go down the agenda that we had, each person?
Whichever way you want to work it.
Okay, so if we start on Tuesday the 20th, the first one we had was Workplace Learning Connection. They were asking for $925. And that was no increase from last year, was it? No. Same thing. So if this is the board's wish, we need a motion to that effect.
Move to allot that amount of money and run those dollars through SEDCO. Do you want that part of the motion?
Okay, the motion been made by Kaufman. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Bell. Roll call. Kaufman.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
And Dearborn, aye. Okay, the next one was senior citizens. For the senior dining down there, they asked for a $1,000 increase.
Move to approve the $1,000 increase.
Okay, the motion been made by Bell. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Smith.
So I want to make sure I have this
Discussion.
correct to the minute. So that would make it 14,000 for them.
I think they were at 13.5, weren't they?
Yeah, because she thought it was a
She thought it
$1,000
was
increase,
13,
but it was
and they
only
went up to 14.
it was only 500.
So really, it's really not a $1,000
It's a-
increase.
it's
It's a $500 increase. They were. She
They're
thought
at
it was at
13.
13. They're at 13. Okay, she thought it was 13.5. 13.5, wasn't it?
No, it's 13,000.
Okay, so the $1,000
So that'd
increase
be
put them
up
up to
1,000.
14. That's what she's asking for,
I
right?
want to put this amount in there for the next person that's going to be in here next year, so it's right in the minutes. That's why I'm asking. So who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion on it? Roll call. Bell.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Dearborn, aye. Fair Association. And they come in later, they were asking for a $1,500 increase. They went from 33.5 to 35,000 is what they're asking for. Brad, you're representative on the Fair Board. What's your feeling on it?
They were asking how much again? 1,500?
1,500 more. They were at 33.5 and they're going to 35.
Well,
By their financials, it looks like they need the money.
yeah, they do.
I don't believe we didn't give them anything. I don't believe we gave them an increase last year.
No, we didn't. I'll make a motion to go 1,500.
Okay, the motion been made by Gal. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Kaufman. Any more discussion? Roll call. Gal.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
And Dearborn, aye. And these figures that we're giving you now, Carrie, those are the ones that you plugged in already, right?
Yes, I'm double
Okay.
checking right now.
County Library.
I guess I'd like to know where we're at with rural services before we make that decision.
Yeah. Rural services, yeah, there's gonna have to be. Here's all the funds. And just thought I can brief you, hold on just a second. Hand these out. Okay, so as you go through these, yeah, your rural services is hurting. Okay, from way back when, remember, rural services own levy rate. Last year, we increased your deputies over there. The reason why is your expenses are going up more than what your valuation is to be able to cover and not have to increase that levy. You have libraries coming out of there. You have sheriff deputies. You have environmental and zoning, 50% of his salary coming out of there. You have your transfers to solid waste of $50,000 and then to secondary roads. Yeah, and unfortunately, with your salaries, they increase, and then your transfers is based on the valuation, of course, except for solid waste, we have a set $50,000 on that. I did budget what the libraries come out of there, the 105. So, and yeah, that's an increase for them of 10,000. What I'm trying to say, it's very difficult to cut this fund with how we have it set up right now, with your salaries coming out and all that.
How much more do we need to have in there to have a carryover, Gary?
Right now you're at 98,000, not comfortable whatsoever, because your sheriff deputies, they have right now, currently they get a percentage of the sheriff. But along with that, they get overtime, okay? So it's not like, for say, my deputy, Jolene, she gets a percentage of my salary, and that's what it is. There is no more, okay? Any overtime is comp time. So it's hard to regulate that. You really don't know, and you'll see that in his budgets, which you did last year and this current year, is he doesn't budget the percentage because he always has to add extra money in there for the unknown for the overtime. That's what makes me wary on the Fund 11, because we got 5 or 6 deputies coming out of here now. So
What's comfortable for us, Carrie? What number?
I'm going to go with I did last year. I look back at 300,000. So you need right a little bit over $200,000, and I don't see how we can cut 200,000. And so of course you know what happens then.
Can some of the things be taken from another fund to do, or is that, I mean, talk about that. I mean, I realize the answer probably yes, but talk about the pros and cons.
Well, I believe the sheriff, you asked last year for him to bring in stating,
Yeah.
you know, and he did have all the proof of why we moved deputies over there for the rural services. Yeah, there's a lot of expense when we deal with the sheriff's office. You got your motor vehicle of 60,000. Along with that, in Fund 11, remember we did budget the tractor for secondary roads of 70 grand. That is in there. Shop equipment.
Carrie, when other communities that don't have police departments contract with the county for services, how does that work and how do they pay?
To be honest with you, Dawn, he has never involved me in that. I do not know how he charges that. I do not know the income he's getting off of that.
And it's a line item in our budget. And
Yeah, on his side it should be, yeah. So.
And
Right.
it's an increase by 3 or 4% on a yearly basis.
So along with
It's a
that, I
contract.
see where you're going. We should have some of that revenue on the rural services then.
Yeah.
If these deputies are doing the towns, correct? So, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, no, he's never involved me in that, so.
Well, I guess that would be a question I have for Warren then.
Mhm.
Because it gets counted as rural services on time.
Yep, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Gary, can you take a step back on the big picture of all of these funds and
Sure.
then go back to the rural so I can
Sure.
see what everything's doing?
Your general basic, of course, is your $3.50. So, that one right there, I'm not concerned about. That one looks fine. Your general stuff, I use your current levy rate of $1.44, and that is generating, a sufficient amount of money in there. So I'm not concerned about that one either. Mental health, that's his own little animal, as we all know. That's all set by the state, so, and then your rural services, so. Yeah.
So the levy adjustments to those, was it the first three you said,
Mhm.
did what was intended? I mean, it put us back into health and we're not gonna have to do that again. Last year, right? We adjusted those last year.
Can't do the general fund.
Right, we did a lot of changes in between what we can take out of the general to the general sup and vice versa, okay? General sup is very limited. It's your FICA, IPERS, health insurance, and we do not have all the health insurance coming out of Fund 2 yet, nor do we need to right now. So I'm comfortable with that just as long as the board is.
How much
So.
of an increase, Carrie, would we have to have if everything stayed the same and we needed that comfort zone?
For your rural services? I did some calculating. Let's see, right now it is at $3.20. If we increase the levy by 20 cents, the ending fund balance will be $234,000. Still doesn't give me a warm fuzzy feeling, so I went back to the drawing board, increased it another 10 cents, and then we're at 305 as the ending fund balance.
So that would be.
Three what?
$3.50, so you're looking at 30 cents. But along with that, that's when I went back saying, okay, where can we cut? And, you know, it's
At 3.5, it'd give you a fund balance of how much?
305,
305.
yeah.
What did we do last year on that?
Increase of 23 cents.
Yes.
How about the year before?
No increase.
Yeah.
All right here.
Oh,
Yeah, in your
oh,
first sheet,
gotcha.
I give you your little
I'm with
history.
you. Yep.
And the increase last year was the justification of your deputies.
So what you're saying is we should decide if you want to increase the levy there, if you want to proceed with all the actions.
Yeah, I would
Because what
recommend.
you got everything budgeted in there right now, you got it in there, all the increases that everybody asked for.
Yes, and next valid point. The ending fund balance reflects, your sheriff. The last revision, he just came in, he gave it to me yesterday, he came in this morning, was off the comp study. So again, that reflects your Fund 11. So that's
Got it.
with the reduced rate, which as you heard this morning, yeah, he's not happy about it, so.
But is that $24,333 that he said more, is that in your figures? That is not.
Yes, it is.
It is.
But the 24,000 is, he's just looking at bottom line. Again, he's in the general sup, and he's in the rural.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if there's a way, which I know, I'm just talking out loud, I'm just throwing things out there. The motor vehicles, if that should come out of the general to help the rural. I mean, we gotta somehow get somewhat creative, so, like I said, unless this levy's gonna keep having to go up.
The problem is if we tap the general, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, you're right.
There's nowhere to go.
Mhm. But with your general sup, what we can do is take some of those, no, for your general sup, the way it's looking right now, we can take some of those health insurance that's in Fund 1 right now and put them over the general sup. And it shouldn't affect your levy rate. Ending fund balance will go down because we got a balance in there that we can do that. I've thought of that. It's gonna be a lot of, but yeah, somehow we gotta get the rural services under control. And it's hard, because we're limited.
Of course, if you take anything out of rural services, it'd be the deputies, right? What else can we take out of rural services?
Yeah, I mean, it's your libraries, deputies, your environmental and zoning, the shop equipment we did this year. Yeah.
We could take libraries out of it.
There's not much.
We could take libraries out of the rural and put it over the general. So
Mm-hmm.
just the deputies that we can move over, right?
Mhm.
Well, and what you just said about the supplemental too, right?
Mhm.
But the thing of it is that the information that Warren brought us is the deputies are spending their time out in the county, not in the rural area.
I totally agree. I know.
I'm looking through here on revenues for the sheriff's department, and I'm not finding anywhere where that money's coming back in.
Okay.
And I don't think it does. I don't think it comes back into that fund. I think it just goes back to the general.
But you're looking at his revenue for all funds, and you're not seeing anything?
Unless I'm missing it, but I'm looking through and I'm not seeing where that comes back in.
So you've been running the numbers, Carrie. What's your recommendation?
I think we need to seriously work on this and see what we can do. Unless every year we're running into this. I don't have the magical answer. I've been thinking about it over and over for the last couple days.
How much do we budget for overtime in that department?
He doesn't give me those figures.
I think I want to see some of the figures.
I mean, I can run you actual numbers of what each deputy makes at the end of the year.
That doesn't help me. I want to know the overtime.
Of course, when you're talking of an increase in the rural services, I said for years they should have been raising it a little bit every year, you know, instead of all of a sudden, boom, we got to hit them one time.
Mhm.
And if you look at what there is, you know, the last, 3-6 years, we've only raised it 3 times, you know.
Mhm.
Under
So-
revenue 5110, Don, it's there at 84,840.
So to me that, you know, we
It
should have
was
been
more.
raising it all along, taking small
84,
steps instead of
840.
going all at once. And
Well,
this is what I've
Under
said before.
security services.
And not only that, before,
Okay.
we didn't take that much out of rural.
Nope.
It's in the
So we
But
just
that's all
done
we
some
have coming
changes
back
and
from
now
it.
we're just,
page
we're
2
feeling it and we just,
revenue.
But we took that, we put it into rural services because that's where it's being used. You know, that's where the deputies are being used, for
Yeah.
rural services.
you're right, there's justification there.
That's right.
Well, that 84, I'd just give you 84.
84. Yeah, keep helping out.
That one should probably be switched over on the revenue side.
Okay, let me find it, John. What was the line item?
It's 5110.
51.
Right.
Here it is, security services at
84,840.
84,840.
That one should be over on the revenue should be over on the rural services.
Okay.
That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes a huge difference.
That's, I was like, Seen that word, but.
Where it was in general.
Yeah, it's going to your general.
So you're going from general over to rural on that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we don't think the general.
That's his contract with the towns?
That's the contract with the towns.
I don't think it should all go over, because he's getting that money. There's guys that are giving him time up there. I don't think it should all go over to rural services.
You should probably find out from him in his record keeping.
That's right.
What deputies are in rural, which ones are those, are they assigned to a certain city? I don't know how he works that out there.
And he counts all his time basically going to all those cities. That's, he considers that all rural. So
Okay.
all the traffic time and so forth is all considered rural. I always thought there was somewhat of a discrepancy on how he counted that number, but.
Okay.
I guess I just want more information on that from Warren.
Okay.
That's
Is there right the
but
board?
that would be a way to.
You want.
Can the board call him right now and ask
Call
the
him.
questions?
Yeah. We'll
That
have
would
him
be
come
great.
up.
If he's down in his office, I don't know what he had planned today. But
I need to take
Bev,
my-
I'd give him heads up so
take
then he
five.
can bring up his paperwork with him,
Yeah.
documentation.
What do you want?
Now you sound like me.
She's rubbing off on me. This is EMA, that's signature for the budget, right there.
Oh, I'm not comp time, overtime. The overtime amount.
That's it. Time on one, right there.
Thank you.
Oh, don't go there.
Said that wrong.
No, that's okay.
What was
I'm
that?
just,
Good sign.
because I'm trying to think, well, you were thinking my thoughts ahead, is what you were thinking.
I'm glad you.
Yeah.
I've always questioned that, but.
Well,
And
let's put it
I'm-
this way, the
yeah.
state does comp time, cities do comp time, they don't get paid over.
And they used to. And
And there can be a mix, you can have a mix so that you don't give way so much comp time that you can't provide services.
right. And I
But-
think
but
where
there's a
he
mix.
comes off of his
But that would be
thinking.
great.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
Start it up.
you can sit right
Yep.
beside me if you want to.
Okay.
I'll leave you alone.
All right.
We're discussing rural services being too low. We're discussing the sheriff's department.
And how we're moving money around.
Okay.
The the deputies in the rural services and the deputies in that are being charged to the towns and all that, and the income. What income are you getting off the communities?
Oh, that is in the budget.
Is that that
Is it this
84,000?
one?
Security, yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's the three city contracts, yeah.
3 city contracts?
Stanwood, Loudon, and Bennett.
Okay. So when you go through that, do you feel that that's an adequate fee for that? I guess our concern is first of all, we weren't sure where the money went, and I think we got that figured out. But my concern is the amount of calls that you have there. How do you come up with that number on what you charge them?
Well, it was set up before I was sheriff. It's roughly, I wanna say $40-some per capita, per person in the city. Every county does it different from what I've heard. Some do it like we do, some just, it's unreasonably cheap, $400 or $500 a year for towns that size. Some figure in how many taverns they have, and they add to it how many schools. We don't do that. What the gist of it is, we charge X number of dollars, we take care of all their law enforcement needs, and we attempt to give 20 hours a week. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. It evens out pretty well, I guess. I've never kept track of it. We're not tied to 20 hours a week, but that's the goal we try to achieve.
What percentage is now is that, you know, you were dividing off the deputies, how much time they spend in the county, how much time they spend in the cities?
Keeping track of it, yeah.
Yeah, we never got the yearly report yet, have we?
Got one more month to go, don't we?
This month, and then that'll be the year, I think, because we didn't start
For-
until.
You remember, you know roughly what it would be?
What the percentage is in towns, and
Yeah.
it's like 70-30 is.
70%?
But it's running pretty close to that. I mean, some months it's 69, you know.
70% towns and 30%?
No, 70% we work in the
County?
county,
Okay.
county hours.
Now, does that county, do you count, does that person, is he also the one that does the patrolling in the communities for the contract?
Well, yeah, 'cause we don't assign somebody just to the towns.
Okay.
So when they're out working, if there's a call in the town, we take the call.
Yeah.
So what they do is each deputy, they're supposed, you know, in a normal night, if they can, they try to swing through each town and, you know, at least be there for a little while, you know, spend some time in there, and then obviously we get another call, we go back there. But no, we don't have anybody that's assigned directly to a town.
Everybody swings through them. You know, when I worked the road, I would try to spend at least an hour in each town. And, you know, sometimes you didn't get there, sometimes you did, sometimes you got called back, so.
So that 30% would take into consideration that time that you go into town for an hour or something like that, right?
I believe so, isn't it? I let Kevin
Yes.
handle that part of it.
Okay.
And if you really wanted to know, I mean, I would have how many hours were spent in each town. Well, I mean, obviously, some of the other towns we spend time in too. It's not like we don't ever
Yeah.
go help another town out. You know, if somebody calls for assistance or if they need help with something, we'll go help them. And we drive through the town just 'cause we're there, but.
Yeah, just, it's off the subject, and you may know this, but we just got a note from Durant. Sunday and Monday, there's going to be nobody. Every night after midnight, there's going to be nobody till 8 in the morning.
Not my
Yes.
problem anymore.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So,
I'm sleeping good at night now.
Yeah.
So they're asking you to help patrol that?
They understand, and we've made it clear that we'll take emergency calls, help what we can, but can't guarantee anything either.
It's pretty much just a case of if they have some major, I mean, it's a mutual aid agreement, so if they can cover it, if Muscatine has to get called up, if Scott County comes over, or if they're just notifying them that they're not gonna have anybody on. Even ISP has covered stuff if they could get there quicker. It just
Okay, we have what, 12 deputies now?
11.
11 deputies, and how many's in rural services, Gary?
6.
6?
5 in general fund, but my wages actually come out of general fund too, so it's 6 and 6.
So really, we aren't really overloading the rural services if they spend 70% of their time out there.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked about, Kevin and I were kind of just guessing what we were going to talk about. You actually, the general fund, I make more than the deputies, so the general fund carries my wage in there too, where the rural service doesn't.
So when you get called out to one of the cities.
Contract cities or?
Well, the contract cities are considered city as far as what you're counting, correct?
Correct.
So when you get called out there, you count the time from where they started all the way to the city, and then, or do you just count the time they're in the city?
Time in city limits.
Time in city limits, unless they're working a case in city limits and you're back at the office, like working on paperwork for a city, we use that as the county.
And see,
or
I think
city time
that's skewed, because really the city time should count the time to get there too. I've always thought that was a skewed, deal.
I know if we go to court or something on a city case, we count that as city time. But
So you're saying that if somebody is wherever, we'll say Durant, and they get called to Stanwood, you're saying we should charge them for the drive time up there?
Because they're getting called for that city.
if we're So, I mean, yeah, I can see that. I mean,
And I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, I'm just saying it's kind of it's a number, we're getting a trend where I think there's it's skewed a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is there too. Yeah.
Well, when you get increases for your department, whether it's salaries or expenses or whatever it is, when your budget goes up a certain percent, does their fee go up a certain percent also?
Well, and that's something we may want to address. It hasn't been an issue yet, but the maximum theirs can go up is 3%. It goes up whatever raise increase. There's really nothing in there for gasoline, price of cars. If I would get a 5% raise this year, the most we can raise theirs is 3.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get a 2.5, theirs goes up 2.5.
Well, I just know that when you and I have had discussions before about, like, let's say we wanted to dissolve Durant's Police Department, and we wanted to go with all county, and you basically told me you'd have to hire 1 or 2 more deputies, at least minimum, to cover that. And then you explained to me what the cost was for cars and benefits and the whole 9 yards, so that the city had to make their decision, are we better off paying for our own police department or going with county services? And, we chose to keep our own, but there is a cost, an extreme cost that goes with having your own police department.
West Branch just called me. They're exploring a fourth officer. Wanted to know what it would cost to have us just 40 hours a week go down there. And the only logical thing I'd have to put on another deputy, which would be another headache and irritation to me. But anyway, I took the general fund and divided it. General fund uniform patrol, divided it by 5, came up with it cost $98,000 to put somebody on the road for a year. Car, insurance, uniforms, everything. So, I'm pretty sure they can do it cheaper than that.
they were wanting 40 hours. They wanted 40 hours though, a deputy there for 40 hours, whereas these other towns, we're not guaranteeing that we're gonna be there.
Right.
We might do 40 hours one week and not be there at all the next week. I mean, most of the time we're there at least.
It comes out in the wash.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They wanted a deputy dedicated to West Branch.
And the money coming, that 84,000 that we get for contract, that goes into the general fund, Carrie?
Yeah, right now it's being deposited into the general. So would it be accurate statement, Warren, that should be going to the rural services?
I suppose there's a possibility that, if it is coming out 70-30, yeah, maybe some of it should be going. You guys handle the financial part of it. I don't.
It looks to me like you got 6 deputies in rural services and 5 plus yourself in general. Half of it should go into rural services and half stay in the general, I would say.
Yeah, that's
my feeling on it.
I just collect it, you guys spend it.
Right, and we're just moving it from point A to point B
Yeah.
is what we're doing, but we want to make sure we're justified in moving that over.
I think it's a valid. I don't know whether you would go 50-50 or if you would follow the amount of time we spend in city versus the percentage in the city versus county. I don't know what the right answer is, but I can see where some of it should probably go into rural services.
Well, we're just trying to stem the blood loss, from rural services. And the other question I had for you is, I'm not aware of what the budget numbers are as far as overtime. Do you do overtime, comp time, a mix?
Strictly overtime.
Strictly overtime. And what's the number on that?
As far as how much?
Like last year, what'd you have in overtime last year?
Usually I budget 5% over and above what the wage would be, and that covers the holiday time. It usually comes out pretty close. And something else I guess I need to look at, and I should have brought the sheet with me. Again, we were trying to figure out what you guys were wanting to know. It might be a possibility, when we split the deputies between rural services and the city, if we have more people working nights in one than the other, the nights, you're more likely to get a drunk driver, get a bad accident, and that would probably, if there's more of them on rural services, that would probably skew overtime one way or the other. So, and I have that list of who, I can't off the top of my head list who's in which one. I know Kevin's in rural service. I think Kevin's in rural services. Do you have that?
I think from last year I do.
The general fund, if I'm in there, obviously I don't get overtime, so.
You have Orville, Austin, Corey, Jackson, Bode, and Kine.
In which one?
And rural.
And Kine's actually not topped out yet, so he's only at like 75%, so that would bring his down a little bit compared to the rest of them.
Bode works a mid-shift, so Orville works midnights.
Corey works midnight.
Corey works midnights.
How long has that been since we done away with comp time and went to overtime?
Couple years.
It's probably more than you think. It's probably been like 4 or 5 years that, because you told us to go away from it. We used to have comp time, and then the bad thing with comp time was people would just take time off, and then you end up with more overtime.
Right.
So that's why we did away with it, and I think it left some liability out there because you had so much on the books.
Yeah.
Some of our guys would.
Well, and I don't know if that's a true statement that you told us to. I think we asked, but
I think we had a meeting with Paul Brew, wasn't it?
Yeah, with the comp time, you may make the comp time and say $23, but by the time you get around to using it, you may be making $25, and then if they take it and you have to find somebody else to cover, that person's building the comp time, and we just decided it was better just to pay it and just be done with it.
Well, I think we had somebody retired too that had a whole bunch
Yes.
of comp time.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was earned at a lot less than $23
Right,
an
and that's
hour.
where I think it really hurt was.
Yeah.
Well, that answered my questions.
We've been trying to have the guys, like now, we're trying to keep them under or the overtime some, trying to send them home early if we had other guys out, things like that. But there's times when the 2 weeks, it's hard because depending on what happens, especially now if the weather's bad again, our guys end up on accidents or something at the end of a shift. Getting them home on time is sometimes. You might not have a call for your whole shift, and then it seems like it never fails.
Oh, I'm quite aware of how that works.
Yeah. Well, and like Jackson and McGinty and Austin, they're investigators. They do a pretty good job of jockeying it around so that if they've got some overtime build up, they'll take time off before the end of the timesheets. And once in a while I gotta get after the guys, but there's a column on the far right. When they have overtime, I just ask them to write down what it is, and most of the time it's accidents, drunk drivers, domestics that come in at the end of the shift. It's not like they're waiting until a half hour before the shift and going out and finding a drunk. It's a 4-hour project to get somebody processed for drunk driving. Unless you're well practiced at it.
Even if you drop it down that you were down to 60% county, 40% town, on your percentage there, we're still, with 6 deputies in rural and only 5 in the general, plus yours, it's almost a 50-50 split there.
Yeah, it's
So,
actually the
I don't think we're out of line there. The only thing we're out of line on is the income coming in. That part of it should go to rural services instead of all into general fund.
That's a valid point, yeah.
And making sure that that fee is where it needs to be as far as that.
Yeah. I guess I think what we charge them is fair. I don't think either side gets hurt. It's been, I don't know when we started these contracts, probably roughly 15 years ago, 12, something like that. You know, the prices of cars have gotten more expensive. The only thing we've ever charged, the only thing we've ever increased is wages. And 4 or 5, whatever years ago, there was a wage freeze, so it didn't go up that year. You know, cars are $27,000 a piece now.
Yeah, maybe, you know, we probably need to tie it more to expenses rather than just the wages.
Yep.
I guess I'm not sure, how are those contracts written, Warren? Are they, it's just each year it starts over, right? So,
each year.
are we able to change the language in that?
Well, we would have to meet, we'd have to meet with them and, you know, they would have the opportunity either re-sign or.
I mean, I don't wanna make it a hardship for them, but, you know, the other thing is the other towns that do have them, you know, they have the increased cost of vehicles and maintenance and the whole 9 yards. I mean, it doesn't stay frozen, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just wanna make sure that we're keeping that the same.
Yep. Valid points.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions or comments for Warren and Kevin? Thank you for coming out.
Thanks.
What do you guys, do you want us to keep track of the hours differently somehow? Or, I mean, I can try to have the guys do it differently. As far as, did you wanna go longer than a year?
Well, my other thing is it's like John said, if you could kinda keep track of some of that drive time to get to the call, I mean, that also is a factor. I mean, you know, you're not, if you've got an emergency call from point A to point B, you're not stopping somebody in between in the rural area to get to that, hopefully.
Right.
You know, so I guess that's kinda how I'm looking at that.
Yeah. And just to be devil's advocate though, but if you are running up to Loudon and somebody crosses the center line and about hits you, you're gonna stop them. So,
Pretty hard to do the whole thing correctly, you know,
It really is, unless the thing is, I'd have to almost have them call out.
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be on town, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be.
I mean, I can certainly, I wouldn't feel bad about it at all, but just make the decision that when they start keeping their hours, they split it half and half. If they're 20 minutes out, they add 10 minutes for travel time. That would be fair, I would think.
Yeah,
I wasn't keeping track that close on minutes though. I mean, I guess when I'm having them do it, I'm not going every 5 minutes.
Well, the reason we're so concerned is your rural services is just tanked. I mean, it's bad. And we're trying to figure out if we're keeping up with this expenses, if there's gonna be a tax passed on to take care of that, we wanna make sure that the right person's paying the right tax.
I got a question, if I may.
Yes.
Would it be an unreasonable amount to say, if it's done on a per capita basis, just to raise each town $2 or $3? I mean, like I think they said Stanwood was, what, 800 or it doesn't make any difference. Let's just say Stanwood's 800. $3 per capita is only $2,400.
Yeah, only to those towns is quite a bit of money.
Well, you know,
Get
but
those small
I'm
towns.
saying if that's the case, that's too much. But whatever we do, if we start out lower, we gotta kinda keep up every year, a small amount every year.
Well, that's the reason why I'm saying if his budget is increased a certain percentage, then the amount of the budget that goes to rural services should increase that percentage.
Absolutely.
You know, and some years it's worse and some years it kinda plateaus, but that's.
Another thing I just thought of
It's hard for him to
too,
budget a
it's
little bit.
state code says that, a city, incorporated city shall either have their own police department or contract with another entity. It doesn't specify how much that contract is, you know, and off the top of my head, I don't know what it is, 30, 32,000, 28,000, it's in that group. I think, Bennett's below 20 yet, it's like 16, 18,000. You get too high, and they could contract with, some guy 5 hours a month. Legally, they've fulfilled their obligation to the state of Iowa, and then we're gonna be stuck doing them anyway.
Still your county.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, but, the cities can cut back, it falls on the sheriff. The state patrol can cut back, falls on the sheriff. You know, we can't just tell our citizens, you know, midnight, we're gonna have the state patrol come cover us, we just don't have that obligation.
It's a no-win situation.
Well, somebody's gonna pay.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay in your taxes one way or another, whether
Somebody's
it's
gotta
state,
pay.
local, whatever. You're gonna pay for the services. And, you know, everybody's willing to cut them until they're the one that's dying in a wreck, or they're the one that's getting beat up at home. And then they want them there yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And you're right, the only way to pay all these bills, you either pay it through the town, or you pay taxes. I mean, taxes pay the bills.
Okay, Warren, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Kev. So Kerry, if we take half of that income, that 42,000, move it over to rural services, that would cut it down, so you'd only need what, about 150,000, 160,000? And what would that make our levy?
170,000. Get it back up to 3.
Mm-hmm. And you're only talking 22. I'd have to crunch the numbers. You're still looking at a.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, that's. I hate to say it, but it's, yeah.
Can you just take each item in rural services, list them off, and see if there's something we can, I mean, some of them we've already said we can't do anything, just do that.
Libraries, currently you give them 95,000. Are you gonna give them any more? There's something to think about.
You can.
Transfers, there's, hate to say it, SOL, that's stuck. Libraries, you can decrease, because I put 105,000 in there. Department 88, Bill, you can ask him if there's any way he can cut things there. There's not a lot there, though, for him to cut. It's not gonna add up to your substantial amount. Dues and membership, that's your Wilton RC&D. Wasn't Wilton, we were just giving them $500,
500.
didn't they want an extra 500 for 1,000?
Mhm.
But again, that's 500. And then it's the sheriff.
The little stuff isn't what's killing us, though.
Exactly right.
The first three that we approved, workplace, senior citizen, fair association, that comes out of general anyhow, doesn't it?
Yes.
So that is not of rural services.
Library's the only one that comes out of your rural services.
Looks like 165,000, probably another 23 cents. sound right?
roughly.
How come Wilton and RC&D come out of rural?
RCD doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't?
Yeah, it does.
Why does that come out of?
Oh, you guys made that decision 2 years ago.
I can look it up
Oh,
where you're.
because of probably shifting stuff around.
Okay, thank you. Like,
I can see where you're paying it from, that helps.
That's probably why.
So.
'Cause we needed it to come out of there versus the general.
It's coming out of Fund 11.
Yep.
So those two could be shifted, right? I mean, I know this is little, but.
Yeah.
Is that right? Those two could be shifted?
Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts about that, whatever it is, piece of equipment? Do you wanna keep that in there? Is that
Tractor
still on the
and skid
table?
steer.
Brush cutter,
The
wasn't it?
70,000?
Brush
Yeah.
chipper?
Well, if they want to
But
keep
wasn't
mowing
it
the
a
grass
tractor?
out
What
there.
was it that was 70,000? It wasn't the chipper or something else that was that much.
No,
There's a brush chipper and a
Skid steer.
tractor.
Skid steer was the
Skid
conservation.
steer.
no, that's coming out of a different one.
I thought he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
It's
I
in
thought
the
it was-
minutes what he wanted to
Yeah.
take out of rural services.
I think it was the tractor and the chipper.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought
Tractor and the
that.
chipper, makes sense.
You
Cause the
can't
other
really
piece of
take that out
equipment
'cause that-
conservation and him went into.
Because that tractor's strictly used for rural services.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I'm
it's-
just throwing things out there,
And the skid steer, that's just part of the cost, because conservation's paying for part of that also.
yeah, and that's totally out of a different fund.
Yep.
Yeah.
So. I guess we could ask the sheriff, a motor vehicle, is that just in rotation? Is there any way he can go? I mean, I know in the end it's gonna catch up to
I was
him.
gonna say, you're just kicking that can down the road.
What were the two things that Rob asked us to consider putting in rural services?
That's
What-
the
That-
tractor.
that
and
That
chipper.
tractor and chipper.
Yeah.
Tractor chipper.
They have stuff that they're using right now, don't they, in secondary roads, for that same stuff? They just wanted new stuff?
Well, yeah, the chippers,
Junk.
it's pretty bad. Tractor, I think he wanted that for extra tractor for mowing. I think they were gonna replace the old John Deere tractor and update it with the new. Could they get by?
Gary, what did that,
That's
going
what-
from 340
that's
to
kinda what I'm
350, how much extra
wondering.
did that generate for us?
340, 350, right around 70,000.
70,000?
Yeah.
So in other words, you want to get it up to 200,000?
No, 300,000.
300,000?
Because you have those, 8 salaries coming out, including your 6 deputies and then E and Z. E and Z I'm not concerned about, usually what he budgets is what it is.
Yeah.
It's the sheriff that makes me really uncomfortable not knowing, so we don't ever wanna go, yeah.
But you got projected right now, basically a carryover of about $500?
Projected from this current year,
From,
is that what you're saying?
yeah,
This current year, if everybody brings in the revenue they said they were going to, and they expend everything they said they were going to, we'd have 308,000 for a carryover.
okay. And next year, the way the budget's written, you've got about 93,000 budgeted for a carryover, right, for next year?
Yeah, that's your ending fund balance.
So we need another $210,000 to bring it up to the 300.
Correct.
So if we take half of the income, that's 42,000, right?
Yeah. That's
So
a nice
we're-
hunk.
210, 42, so we're down to 168.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we don't get the chipper and the tractor, that's 70.
Mm-hmm.
And you can throw another 55 if we switch, pay for the others out of general, right?
Pay for what?
Wilton,
RC&D.
RC&D.
Oh, okay.
Those two.
Yeah, I know it's a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a total of $6,000, because I put in what the Wilton was requesting additional 500. And RC&D, I considered they were staying the same, so correct me if I'm wrong.
So
at
what we
5.
got there with that?
And what about giving the libraries the full amount? Usually you just increase 5. They always ask for 10, but in past history,
That's
but
what we have been doing.
Even if you froze them, it'd still be about 82.5 you'd need.
okay.
If you did all that, I think.
Is that with the 5, John? With the
I
library's
believe
doing
so.
5 with that 82?
I believe so.
But if you start out, Carrie, if you go to $3.40 instead of $3.50, that's gonna get it down $70,000, right? So that's gonna get it down. We're gonna need more money in there, right? If we go to the $3.50, that'll give you your $300,000 carryover, right?
Right, with no cuts.
Okay, with
I always give you the worst
$350,000.
case scenario, what it's gonna cost if we do everything as planned.
That'll generate us right around $200,000, right?
Right,
Additional.
increasing it to 350.
Right.
Right.
And if we add in half of that money that he's taking in from the committee's 42,000, right? Because he's taking in 84.
Right.
So if we subtract that off of there,
Mm-hmm.
we're down to 158, right? 158,000. Correct?
Hold on a minute, please.
You want my calculator?
Nope. So all you're saying, if you look at your 93,918, add in your 42,000, you're up to 136,000 roughly.
Right.
You want 300,000, so you're still short.
164,000.
Perfect.
How much?
164,000 you
Right.
gotta find.
Okay, so if we move Wilton and RC and D over, that's
That's $6,000.
$6,000.
And the
So
tractor?
158,000.
I
She already got
budgeted
that.
6 for RC&D and Walton. The total amount's 6 there, guys and ladies.
Well, we're figuring, we haven't made those decisions, but for
You
figuring
have
now,
it.
for easy
Yeah.
figuring,
So 158, so then if we cut the libraries back to $5,000 increase, that'd take another $5,000 off, right?
Yep,
So we're down to 153,000.
yep.
and then the 70, right? Didn't you suggest the 70?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that?
Do what?
Brad seems
The
to think they
tractor
can live without
tractor
it.
and chipper,
Tractor and chipper.
why are you doing that?
Well, he needs it. Where are you gonna put it?
We weren't gonna put it anywhere. Brad says he thinks that he can get by without it.
That's my opinion.
Based on what? I mean,
County
I'm
people
not-
want their ditches mowed.
Well, I mean.
Do they wanna
he-
raise
he
their
wa-
taxes to have their ditches mowed?
He was wanting to replace that older John Deere tractor. You know, if you waited a year, maybe it'd be better. I'm just saying.
I don't think Rob's here today, is he at meetings?
He was
He's
yesterday.
not here.
I think he's gone until.
And, I mean, his request was for us to put it in there. If Dawn's hunch is correct, and I believe it is, there's gonna be more revenue for him to take that out of his budget in about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I know that's not a guarantee, but,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't necessarily mean the end of the tractor and the chipper.
No.
It would just mean that he'd have to put it in his budget.
Okay, so we take 70,000 out, now we're down to 83,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause his road use, his.
So
will
now
become
where are we gonna get the
for road use.
83,000?
I think you're gonna have to bump that up, aren't you?
We're already up at 350, right, Carrie?
No, we're just,
No,
nope.
that's not doing anything.
No,
That's
yeah.
not doing nothing, that's keeping the
Yeah.
current levy rate. What you guys are doing is just keeping it current levy rate, trying to just balance it all back.
So if we had to bump it up, what would that be, Carrie?
Great.
After all those figures?
If you're, John, are you calculating it?
Yes, I'll do that. I just gotta get the right, we use a 694, 177, or do we use a 704?
Use a
694.
694.
Okay.
At the 100.
About 11 cents.
Okay, Because I just
Well,
thought at the
about 12.
153,
About
if
12.
we needed 153,000, that's roughly about 20 cents.
About 12 cents.
It sure
So
softens the
now if you're
blow.
cutting it back more, that we
Yeah.
only need like 70 or 80,000, yeah, it'd probably be right around 10, 12 cents increase.
Not different than the 34.
It's
Yeah,
11,
but
Yeah.
11.9, but
Okay.
figured
If
12.
we go up to 340, you say we'd have enough for the 153,000? So we wouldn't have to take that 70,000 out of there for the tractor and the chipper?
Right, estimated, yes.
If it's not an emergency thing on the tractor and chipper,
Mhm.
I would just, cause we could pull that out of road use too, couldn't we? Or not?
Out of his budget?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his, he's got like 234,000 left, is all.
But what I'm saying is if he gets an increase in road use tax,
Yeah.
his number's gonna be different than what he's budgeted,
Mhm.
by, could be considerable.
Right, if that would go through.
That'd be my take, is to wait.
What did you say, and I wasn't following you, at the very beginning, when you started out, you had about 3 or 4 steps to move something to general supplemental, and you said there's a lot of shifting there, but you started out the conversation today when you came in, working on rural levy, and you were gonna, was it benefits or something, that you were gonna shift something to, I'm being very vague, I know, I didn't.
I know, and I'm trying to remember. We've
It
gone
was
through
the
so
very,
much.
it was the very first thing she said when she came in. And there, she said there's gonna be a couple of shifts, and it ended up in supplemental.
Mhm.
What?
I didn't.
Because if you were going to take something more out of the general fund and decrease that ending fund balance, I said then we could,
Shift some stuff over.
Shift some
to
stuff
general
around.
with the general sub.
Okay, I
Yeah.
got you, all right, so that one, yeah.
I mean,
Or basically
again, you
borrow
could
from Cedar,
take your,
that's all.
but you're defeating the whole purpose of
No.
your whole, okay.
Mhm.
So I won't even go
understand.
down that road.
No, I understand.
Wayne, I got a question, if I may.
Yeah.
Are we trying to get, where you said 50-50, moving for rural and for city, what if you put 10% more on the rural side? Does that help you make up this 80-some thousand that you're,
No, it makes it worse,
what makes it worse?
right?
Okay,
Are you talking expenses?
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll make it worse.
okay.
Yeah. We're trying to get rid of the expenses.
But if you're at the 83,000, your levy'd be what, 3?
Probably about what, 332?
Right.
Probably fine enough. I'll give
Just
her
an
the money
estimate
or not.
without-
She got
yeah.
the vibe.
And you go to 340, it'd give us
What?
about 153,000.
Oh, I do. I'm sorry?
If you go to 340, it'd give us about 153,000. We'd cover that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The 340 is a,
20-cent increase.
20 cent?
Mhm.
I thought we were down to 11.
We
Down to
were.
12.
I think he's still talking about that tractor.
I'm still talking about leaving the 70,000.
Oh,
I'm
okay,
talking
okay, I got you.
about
All right, all right.
153,000.
Okay, I got you, all right.
Wayne, just want to ask you guys to consider the non-financial values of keeping the libraries up at 10,000. Valuable service. Quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to take care of that, the rural
extra.
paying, oh yeah, I mean, I'd like to, I wish we could, but there's, no part of the libraries can come from anything other than rural.
No, and it looked like they were on some good paths forward with building things.
Yeah,
But along with that too, per the code section, I didn't calculate it yet, but we give them way more than what the code
Right.
actually mandates us to. So,
So what we really need to do right now is we need to set the levy rate for rural, is what you're saying,
I
Terry?
think you guys still need
Well, we gotta go through them
keep
all.
going through the
Okay.
expenses for
Yeah.
rural. And
I just
And
asked
if
that
you
question
want
because
time-
I wanted a view of where we were
Yeah,
at with the
exactly.
accounts before.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one then, the
Funds.
county libraries.
Move we raise it 5,000.
Okay, the motion's been made by Bill, is there a second?
Two in, to increase that thousand, John?
I would take them to 100,000,
Right.
correct?
Okay, all right, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been seconded by Kaufman. Any more discussion on it? Roll call. Bell.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
And Deborah Guy. So, okay, then we get down to Historical Society. They're asking for $1,000 increase.
So we're are we moving away from rural now?
Yeah, I think he's
Okay,
just
all right.
touching on
No,
everyone.
I just want to make sure I'm straight. I got it.
What are they asking for?
They all receive 3,000 currently.
And what, I mean, the
They didn't
increase?
request a specific amount, did they?
They had, they're happy. We'll look
I don't.
in the budget.
Which one are we on?
Historical Society.
They're at 3, I think they were asking for 1. An additional
Yes, I have
1,000.
budgeted 4,000,
Yeah.
and currently they're at 3.
What's the board's wish on that one?
Well, they haven't had a raise and they've asked the last 3 years and we haven't increased anything. I think they do a wonderful job out there. I'm gonna make a motion to give $1,000 to them if that's what they're asking for.
$1,000 increase.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion's been made by Gal. Is there a second that motion?
Is that's what it was?
Yes.
Was
I didn't
3,000.
look it up.
Okay,
I
so
did.
it's going to 4.
They were at 3, so they go to 4.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion been seconded by Smith. Any discussion?
That comes out of general, Carrie.
That is correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
I prefer 500, but
Any more discussion? Roll call. Gal.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Bell.
nay.
Kaufman.
I'm going to recuse myself since I'm on the board, and it's not associated with the county.
I'll vote aye. So it's been passed. So it's $1,000 to them. Pioneer Cemetery's the same, right, Carrie?
Yeah, that's their own little separate levy that will piggyback on, when I come in and propose the budget, it will actually be with the general, but we separated out for the Department of Management. It was the 10,000, I believe they were asking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sedco, and they decided to stay the same, right, John?
Yes.
Okay. Wilton Development, they have, what, 500 to 1,000? Does that come out of real services?
That's where it is right now.
Okay.
Move we leave that the same.
Okay, the motion been
Which
made.
one are we on, Sedco or Wilton?
Well,
Wilton.
Probably need- Okay.
So, the motion's been made by Bell that we leave it the same at 500. Is there a second that motion?
Second.
Second by Gal. Any discussion?
And John, does that include moving it to general, away from rural, your motion?
well, I think we can do that later, but yeah, that'd be fine.
Was that, yes, that's part of your motion, or no? No?
That's
Thanks.
fine, yes.
Any more discussion? Okay, the motion been made. Second, roll call. Gal.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Deborah Guy, so it stays at 500. Medical examiner didn't ask for anything extra. Next one was volunteer services, asked for a $500 increase.
Move for that $500 increase.
They're at 22.5 now. correct?
You're
Second that.
What they asking for 23? I got down $500 increase. Motion's been made by Kaufman. Is there a second on
I
motion?
think John
Oh,
seconded.
John seconded it. Okay, any discussion? Roll call. Kaufman.
Aye.
Bell.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Deborah Guy. Take care of that one.
Do you want to do a motion on Sedco or no?
Move we
Yeah,
leave
motion.
Sedco the same.
Same. Okay, the motion's been made by Bell. Is there a second on motion?
Second that.
Second by Smith. Any discussion on it? Roll call. Bell.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Gal.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Deborah Guy. Need one on the little table.
On which one?
Okay.
That's the ones I've had in the past, I think.
Okay, so that, I go down to Limestone Bluffs, RC and D.
You have the treasurer first. Unless you're just gonna go through those other ones first.
But go through the other ones first, then we'll go back to the offices. They're asking for $5,000. Does somebody want to make a motion or anything on that?
I'll make a motion that we leave it the same.
The motion been made by Smith. Is there a second motion?
I'll second.
Second by Bell. Discussion. I am not in favor of it because we were sold down the river the last 2 years that, you know, if we gave the money that the other people would give it also, and that did not happen. I think we need to support our communities within our own county. We're giving Wilton $500. I think we'll take that money and give it to our communities if you want to spend that money.
Well, and like we said last night, those, just like this project, those projects that would be worked with the University of Iowa in our county would then not happen. And grants and so forth that are asked to be written in our county wouldn't happen. And that's, you know, totally up to this
Would we
board.
be, that, according to what you passed, that would automatically, if we didn't pay the dollars, we would then be like Clinton, Dubuque, and not a part of the...
Right. Any county that does not supply the minimum requirements, then is not part of the group anymore.
Are you, how sure are you, John, that you're gonna go to Scott and Muscatine? I mean,
They
I
were
know you
actually
can't-
talking Muscatine and Louisa, not
Oh.
Well,
necessarily.
they talked about Scott, but it is not in stone yet. We definitely want to see what happens in Clinton and Dubuque, see if they come to the table or not. Because they have not met with them. Dubuque actually hasn't allowed them to get on the agenda yet. But
Clinton has 2 new board members, don't they?
Yeah, and Clinton's meeting is on Monday. So.
Okay, any more discussion?
Can we see what, I mean, can we, I mean, not that everything is incumbent upon that, but if there's a change in Clinton, if there's a change in the air, that would, I mean, if there's a change in the sport, I guess I should say.
Well, and
this would be an indication.
Well, and the other thing is like I told John when we were on the way back last night, I said, I don't know how much the county people have been educated that this what the benefits are of this program. I think that, like I said, I've got 3 people that probably could at least check into it, and I don't know. I guess I don't see them going to ECIA for help with this. I don't see them, I don't know where else they would go for this kind of assistance. So I'm willing to try it for another year, but I'm new to, I mean, I'm just going on what I saw last night.
Well, and she's the only board member that's ever gone to a meeting.
I went to a meeting as a legislator, John.
1 meeting, yeah.
Not
a
2.
A picnic.
Actually 3, because I went to one in the, I actually went to 3, but
We
that's
went,
okay.
we went to one, didn't we?
Picnic. They
Well,
have a meeting after that.
I guess I'm looking at this way. I know how much we put into Sedco. I know how much we put into Wilton Development. I guess I'm willing to try this for 1 more year and see if I see the benefit. I'm going to put bugs in a few people's ears and see if they're interested. If I find that I'm not seeing any Cedar County participants taking advantage of it, then I might reevaluate that situation next year. But I do think that it's worth, they seem to be getting their ground, they seem to be getting more organized. I understand it's like anything, Sedco went through the same thing where we had some growing pains there for a few years. It was a hard sell to the towns on that to keep them in it and involved in it. And I think this is a lot smaller dollars and hopefully just as big, if not bigger, benefit.
Can we, anybody have a problem with delaying the vote till Tuesday?
I don't see how that will really affect him.
Well, it's a personal request of a guy that's gonna make a decision, so
Yeah.
So if you want to do that.
I mean, you don't have to, I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah, let's go for it.
You can vote this down and then we have it on the agenda for Tuesday if you want.
That's fine. I rescind my motion.
Okay,
Or I can rescind it, or do you wanna just vote it down, or lack of?
We had a second.
We have a second
John
from
seconded.
John, so now we have to vote.
So we have to vote.
We have to vote. Can't
Okay.
rescind it.
I thought you could delay the action on it.
Can we just
Table.
delay the vote?
Yeah.
Can we table it? The motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I'll
could-
table, I'll
Okay.
table my motion until
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay.
Put it on the agenda for Tuesday.
That you can do, okay.
Yep.
I have a few, if I, can I visit with you afterwards, John, about a couple questions?
Okay, so then we can jump back up.
Are we, Dwayne?
Yes.
Are we in agreement if there is 5,000 allotted to this or to the city or to whatever we do, that we can move that to general fund? Okay.
Out of rural services.
Okay.
Okay, going back up, Public Health Director. Public Health, come in with an addition, right, Gary?
Yeah, and this right here is why that compensation is great, because that department has their own little step scale, and I gave them the information a month and a half ago, and she comes up yesterday in a panic saying she forgot about the step scales and I had to redo everything again. So we won't have that problem next year, which is good, but yeah, I reflected it. It was very minimal, but it's just, you know, I'm a perfectionist, so yeah, it didn't make me happy.
$2,109.63, the budget was raised by Public Health down there, because they had the step scale in place right now.
Yeah,
then
and with the
they'll follow
compensation
the comp
study, it would
next year.
actually move them up one, because the board agreed to go on the step increase for if you were caught in the middle. So, and there was 3 employees. So, along with that, I see, she had me add $12,500 for, car. In discussion with her, she had stated that she could possibly have money yet in this fiscal year to buy that. So, just thinking out loud, if that's the case, do we need to budget the 12.5 along with that, the escape? I know our office uses it very minimal. If it's gonna save the county money, do you wanna just allocate that vehicle for them to use? Will that help?
That didn't sound like that was gonna be a help for them, because they're still using the
They're using it
Escape.
right now.
This one.
She's using it, yeah, but not full time, so she told me now that would be great, so.
Well,
I'm just trying to think of ways.
So she must have gone through her budget after she was up here to say that she had that money left in her
Current.
budget.
Yeah.
Because she thought she would have half the vehicle in her budget,
Mhm.
and then half would be put in for next year.
Yeah,
So I guess we gotta clarify that. with
Yes,
her.
that would be nice, because that has happened with a couple department heads. What they come in and tell you and tell me are 2 different stories, but.
Okay, you want her to come up?
I think we should.
Okay, see if she's down in the office.
And I guess, you know, as we can go department by department, but I think overall, we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna stick to the proposed
You're exactly right.
numbers on the study.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna affect probably
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that have been in here. We have different numbers.
Most of them have the numbers anyhow, don't they, Carrie?
Well, the ones that had deputies were screwed up.
Yeah. Your elected officials is where you're gonna have to decide, which way you're gonna go on that. Along with that, department head for, all your other commissions went along with this.
She is down there, right?
Except for your Veterans Affair.
They asked for Jane, so she's exactly what they.
Along with that, she brought up to me
Oh,
that
keep out
her
of the
board
business.
also, and evidently, I don't know if this board's aware of it, next week is payroll period, and her board wanted her to get an additional $1,790 yet this current year for her salaries. Again, she is taking from one line item, putting it into the salary line item. And all your other commissions, what you need, what I have found too, anybody that has money left over, none of your other commissions, conservation, public health, none of them are swapping money for increasing their employees.
Jane is
Like
out
this
of
one
the
is.
nurse right now, do you want Andrea to come?
So yeah, so I don't know what to do on this
How
part.
can we prevent that if the money's in the budget?
It's because she hangs her hat on that $10,000 that she's getting. And I have researched.
No, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know
I
the
know
legality of that.
because of your commissions, yes, they're supposed to be doing the right thing and spending the money as the board when they come in and present. If they say they need $3,500 in phone, they need $3,500. It's not mid-year. They know they have too much in there, and then they're going to put it in the salary line item. How you stop it, I don't know. Unfortunately, you only have one.
Well, this is the
commission
other
that is
thing,
like
I would
this.
think that since those funds are coming from the state, it's up to the state to crack down on that.
Yeah, then we wait till Tuesday on here too.
Problem is that they did crack down on it, and then what was happening is the counties that were actually not as equipped as we were getting a lot of their $10,000 because the criteria we used and the criteria was expanded, so the counties that were doing the right thing could get more of those dollars. That's what was told to us when we expanded the freedom of those boards, and of course everybody wants local control, and giving those boards that local control was then freeing that up. That's the problem what happens when you crack down.
Way in the beginning, when the legislators did that grant, it's awesome. I just wish it truly went to the veterans. I have a list of ever since she's received that from 2007. It's office equipment, it's desks. You can go through here and highlight exactly what went to the vets.
It was sold to us as programmings
and it helps out with her tuition, but to me it's like.
But I was also told that those funds could not go to directly benefit the vet, that they had to go towards the programming and towards the office equipment and expenses.
But there's programs that, I mean, even like that University of Iowa, that's a key example of one thing that could be done to use those dollars that would indirectly be a direct benefit to the vet.
Because you're seeing just as well as when she presented how she realigns, which she's, as an auditor, she's not doing anything incorrect. It just is a bad taste in my mouth because all she's doing is giving herself more rate of pay. She's not putting more hours in. It's her rate of pay. So how is that benefiting the vets?
With the blessing of 5 veterans, though. You're back to the
local
board.
And this is the other thing. Is there any way that we can just require that, well, right now I saw that it's based at 37 and a half hours is what she's based at, or 37 hours?
She only puts in 35 hours a week, and
But
she's
only 30 hours is for the VA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I know, it puts the board in a very, very bad predicament.
Well, and the other problem I have.
We could request that she bump that, if they're gonna give her more pay, bump it.
To that part-time person?
No, bump it to the hours, you know, from 30 to 35.
And then 5 hours would be for
All right, thank you.
relief.
And then we're talking about the budget.
So she'd be up to 40 hours a week then.
All right. Jane's on her way back here from Loudon now.
I guess that would be my opinion on it. And the other thing that I kind of think too is if some of those funds are going to come in, if outreach and the whole purpose of this funds is to make it easier for the veterans to fill out their paperwork and do those things, which is what she's telling us she's trained for, then I would be more inclined to see her up her part-time person to be in the office so she can do that outreach stuff and go fill out that paperwork. I guess and that would be a direct benefit to the veteran to do that rather than having to come out.
And the whole part-time, I heard her getting a current employee. What you have to be careful though too is you're going to pay overtime for a current employee because you got to add both of the times together.
We talked
right.
about that.
But that's where we said it's got to stay under 20 hours a week if they're working 20
Exactly.
Would moving her from 30 to 35 give her the extra time for her to do the outreach, and then she would have the. Is that logical thing, or am I missing something?
No, to me that's what it. Yeah.
But I don't know whether we can tell her she has to work 35.
Unfortunately, like I said, I truly, I have seen this happen for how many years now? And I didn't like the taste in my mouth to begin with, so she gave me all the documentation I followed up on years ago. And I think it's great. What the legislators did was great, but it was exactly for counties that did not have one.
Right.
And we were set up. I mean,
Yep.
so,
And we were getting penalized because we had already done what so many other counties hadn't done.
Yeah.
And there's the,
yeah, so.
And I looked up that code 35B yesterday, and I ran off copies of it for myself. And the thing I get is that each regular meeting, the commission shall submit to the Board of Supervisors a certified list of those persons to whom benefits have been authorized and amounts so awarded. The amount awarded to any person may be increased, decreased, or discontinued by the commission at any meeting. New name may be added and certified. I haven't seen any of them reports.
What is that saying, to her commission or to the board?
It says here, to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
Is that on that monthly report?
35B9.
Yeah, if that's something, then yeah, you have the right to.
There's a
ask
monthly
for it.
report that you did.
Oh,
Yeah.
John, you asked me about the monthly report the other day. Isn't that on that part of that report?
It's who she contacts, but it don't say
Zolak.
how much they're
Zolak
giving
number
or
is
anything
on
else.
Oh, how much?
Because the way it reads
I
in
can go
the
get one
code,
and look at it.
it says here, at each regular meeting, the commission shall submit to the Board of Supervisors a certified list of those persons to whom benefits have been authorized and the amounts so awarded.
Is there any way that we can bring our suggestion of the increased hours to her board? And bounce it back to them?
Justify the pay raise.
You're just gonna have to, yeah.
And then that would be actually providing the services to increasing the amount of time, hands-on time to the
Well,
vets.
and I'm just talking, personally, I was talking about her pay raise that she's talking about in this fiscal year.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about what they're.
What they're even proposing,
No.
yeah. Yeah. Along with that, you know, I was brainstorming and like I said, I understand it's so vague that the 10,000 goes toward, you know, the phones, the folders, all that. But, you know, when you budget it, I just don't like how she'll take what she had allocated for the phone, like you saw, zeroed that line item out and put it to her salary. I mean.
That mileage.
But it's just a bad situation. It really is.
Well, that's what she's doing for a raise now also, right?
Yeah.
You want?
how do we talk to that board, how do we talk to the board?
What you just,
About our-
we have to
about
call
our-
them in for a meeting,
about
just
our
the
ideas.
commission members.
You want to have a meeting with the board next Tuesday?
I would think they would appreciate us reaching out and.
I think so.
Yeah.
I feel better about it.
I don't think they're gonna listen to us, but.
You know, the only other thing is, you know.
I think they're aware of what the situation looks like.
Yeah.
And they know we're in a bind with that. I mean, it's gonna open up a can of worms, so get them in here and talk to them and.
And if it wasn't for that grant, before that, there was none of this manipulating numbers. So.
So, and she said that we would lose the grant?
If
If her salary falls below a certain point.
No,
The
if you're
or the
administrative,
total
administrative, but if you're
Yeah.
taking money out of the administration, which she was,
Uh-huh.
she took out $6,950 out of administration, because she took out all the postage, all the employee mileage
Yeah.
and subs, and she took out, I don't remember, yeah, she took out the phone, so actually she took about $7,695 out. If you're taking that out, that doesn't help you either.
Mm-mm.
I guess we need to know exactly what that formula is.
That's why I think it's terrible to say, I think that $10,000 is actually hurting this whole process, because if she wasn't with that 10,000, the county just budgeted that, she would have to go by her line items.
And I guess I was under the assumption that that board would take that $10,000, increase programming, things that would benefit, and not direct benefits where you're paying the veterans, but it would be, okay, on Saturday, you know, next Saturday we're gonna have a whatever for the veterans, and just like they did over there at the stadium.
Yeah.
And $10,000 could get used up fairly quickly.
I'm sure.
That was my assumption, but.
Well, I'm sure that's the intent of it, but again, we gave authority to a local board in the spirit of local control. I
Well,
mean,
and that's because that's a wrote in the code that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
you want,
disagree with what
you
John.
wanna meet with the board next Tuesday then?
I think we should.
Okay. So you wanna put that on the agenda and then
Okay.
contact all the board members and.
Next Tuesday, you
time?
have time, a little time before the department head meeting. That's at 9, and then you have.
You better wait till after the department head meeting.
Well, then you have, the engineer at 9:30, you have Salmon Drainage bid letting at 10 for half an hour. And 11, you have public hearing for the Salmon Drainage District, so you want it like at 11:15,
Unless you want,
11:30?
make it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Or after lunch?
I don't care.
Huh?
Works for me.
That public hearing won't last very long.
I don't.
We could do 11:15.
Unless we get a crowd in here for it.
I'm sure.
Of course, that's just for the,
Their highway
Highway 38
crossing, yeah.
crossing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Not
we could
gonna
have
be
a little after 11 then?
Should I put it at 11:15?
11:10.
I'll ask Patty to contact them?
Or what, John?
11:10.
Or-
It's not
Or do
gonna
you
take
want me
very
to
long.
contact?
Why don't you contact them?
Yeah.
And then you want, I assume you want Patty too.
Yes.
So 11:15 till.
Disappointing.
11:10.
Okay, 11:10.
So disappointing.
How about 11:09?
I'll do it too.
How about a week?
We need to be thankful of the other commissions that we have and boards that, the job that they are doing.
11, oh, 11:10.
The problem I have with it, having been on numerous boards, is if you stop listening to what the board says, what's the point of having the boards? And why should I donate my time to be on a board if they're not going to listen to what I have to say?
Mhm.
So my problem is I can see both sides of that argument.
You can, but when it comes to this whole salary, we are all aware of the department heads that were not happy about this.
Mhm.
So as a board, being on one of these boards, you would come to somebody else and really get to understand it so you can make a rational decision. At least I would, just to make sure I understand
I think in their
everything.
opinion, from what, having spoke to some of the board members, I think where they're at is they feel that she earns her pay. They feel that she has brought millions into this county based on the experience that she now has. That's what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
And they do not have a problem with that. And in fact, one of the people on her board is in secondary roads. And I guess I was kinda curious to see how he felt about it based on the fact that he's a county employee also.
Mhm.
And then I found out he was one of the ones that made this new motion. So.
I think that's why it's important to get them in here and talk to them.
I would agree. I really want them to explain their
And then we can
rationale.
get something in the middle.
Because I believe every board knows their employee, their department head, their director, what is going above and beyond. They're all running their budgets very well. And, they just gotta get back to the basics of exactly
Well,
what this
and maybe
compensation was
if we
about.
discuss with them the amount of hours, that they increase the amount of hours versus.
Well, to me, it
That
sounds
makes
like they
a
don't
difference.
disagree on anything. They just want her on that scale at the 8-year mark. No, nobody started with that. We took what you currently make, and she still gets over, I don't know, was it up to $1, something like that. It wasn't like she was topped out. And the starting, they're thinking, is the starting wage. Well, yeah. I just think it's being
79
educated
cent an hour
about
raise.
it, by a person that.
And that's why I said this board's gotta decide, are we going with the comp study?
That's your very
or
next,
not?
yeah, you.
Because there's no compromise in it. If you compromise in it, it's blown out of, I mean, this board can decide if they wanna compromise it, but basically, once you do that, you're done.
So.
Now, can I ask a question on this VA? How many, commissioners do you want here? If they say only 1 or 2 can come, is that enough?
You're inviting them.
We're inviting them, so
Okay.
if we start cutting it.
Just invite them all and that's
Yep.
it.
Okay, what's the board's wish on, what do you wanna take up, the elected officials, or you wanna take up the comp board? Let everybody speak up at once.
Go ahead.
I think we need to find, I keep pounding on this, before we can really do a lot, we need to know whether we're gonna go with the comp board recommendation and stick to it or not.
The compensation study.
Compensation study committee's recommendation.
What is there, 3 requests to deviate from it?
County attorney, sheriff's department.
Treasurer didn't turn in a new budget for him, did he?
Mm-mm.
So you got the treasurer, you got the sheriff,
County attorney.
county attorney.
You have the auditor and the recorder, that is the only ones.
Well, we probably need to ask we need to ask the treasurer if his intent of not returning another budget in, is he asking for a exception, or is he just didn't get it turned in? Cause he never asked us for a,
Nope.
an exception. I mean, the other two came in specifically, made their case, made their comments, the treasurer did not. I'm wondering if it's just, if he.
You wanna talk to the treasurer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we wanna try to read his mind. I think we
No,
wanna
you're
owe it to
exactly
him
right.
to tell us what he's thinking.
See if Gary can come in.
Yeah.
John, what is the recommendation?
Look, the comp board and the compensation committee, I'd said it incorrectly, but they're two separate things. What I'm getting at is the compensation committee's recommendation.
There's a misunderstanding about the rule.
Oh.
It's not in right now, but he might come in at lunchtime as far as officials suspended over, I think came in.
Who does his budget?
Who are
They
you
have
speaking
it.
for?
Well, I think him and Sandy
Gary.
might do it together.
And they had adequate time
Sheriff.
to
Oh,
redo their
yeah.
job
Oh,
descriptions
Sheriff's
too.
department head. Sandy
I
don't have
guess,
it.
I don't know where he
They
got
just-
Tell
this.
them to contact him and tell him that we're in the midst of a budget. We really need to
Their deputies
talk, because we need his opinion.
It's in the code.
I think that's a reasonable ask.
Especially since
They
he didn't
can
resubmit his stuff.
Yeah.
the compensation study where you might have an assistant or in any particular department.
Well, you got Warren's opinion.
That's what
And we got
he said.
Renander's opinion. We
You
just
got Renander's opinion.
Did Jeff come and appeal it at the time of appeal?
Jeff did come down and, we went through his,
But when the comp study, before it was finalized, when they gave him a chance to appeal the numbers, did Jeff come down then?
yes. He
Okay,
did.
so he's the only one that actually came down.
For
and-
elected officials, yes.
And went
Or
through the
maybe we can
process
call
of
him
the
if he
appeal.
can't come in. Yeah, he can.
And I don't know where Warren gets that idea that he wasn't gonna be included in that.
It was just side talk is what it was. Again, I mean, just like myself, I redid job descriptions not knowing, so.
Oh, here's-
Because Jane
Jane.
took
Yeah.
up the public health budget then.
We're bouncing all over the place.
I guess so, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, Jane, no, you asked me to put that 12,500 in there, and then we had talked about the escape. Would that help you if the board would allocate the escape to you full-time?
Yes.
It would.
So then
Yes,
you wouldn't need
except-
another vehicle?
What?
You wouldn't need another vehicle then?
No. No, except I would request that we can repair the fuel gauge in it, because it's broken and I don't want the nurses out there or the aides out there with, thinking that they have gasoline and they don't.
Yeah, I think it always shows empty, right?
Yeah, I don't know, it always shows something.
You have to,
because-
you watch your
No,
mileage, your
okay,
trip,
so
but,
they
Yeah.
call
but.
him, or-
But I think we need to repair that.
So that if we allocate that escape to your department, you don't need another vehicle?
That
Or
would be our
you-
third one, and we've always had three, we'll do fine with three.
Of course, the thing is, if you go down to
That
2, you're
written
gonna be
down
paying
for
mileage
them.
to,
You wanna bring that over?
Yes.
mileage coming in.
Yeah.
Well, then you should have money to get the gas tank fixed.
Or you could
What?
come in and
You should have money to get
I
the
mean,
gas
I'm just
gauge
gonna have to
fixed.
repeat it.
I hope out of this
Please, we
budget.
allot that.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, if you could do it like,
Yeah.
oh, today, that'd be great.
It'd probably be about $300, $400.
Oh,
I
Yeah,
don't,
pull
I
It may
don't
be
know.
more than that, because I believe they gotta pull the whole gas tank.
Well, that's, I
and-
just did a car here a year and a half ago, it was $320 was still left, I think.
Okay.
For the fuel gauge?
You may
Depends on what you have to have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Some
Who-
are easy and some aren't.
okay.
Some of them you can crawl and get in the trunk and pull it that way.
You just have to see,
Mary has
it may be
some
300, maybe
she
400,
has some
get an estimate.
comments
and-
he had already written down.
They'll tell you.
And do you have a preference of anybody?
Oh,
Okay.
you can go anyway.
Okay.
Okay, so is it okay to take out that 12.5 for next year then?
We're going to put it, if you take out that 12.5, you're probably gonna have to put it towards mileage, because you're gonna be paying
Mileage
mileage.
for you or whoever.
Who's ever-
Who's
who's
using
ever
it?
using it.
$12,500.
Yeah, but who's
No.
using
Well,
it?
no, but I mean, you're gonna
Sharing
put
the
part of
same
it
amount.
back in for mileage, you know.
I think Wayne uses it, and
Yeah.
very seldom I do. I think I've used it once.
Yeah,
Once or
yeah, you
twice.
don't use it. hardly
Yeah.
at all.
So,
I don't think it's,
it will be minimal.
It would probably be, well, no, I,
it wouldn't be in her budget anyway, it'd be in one of ours for mileage.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So-
Yeah. And mine, I'd be okay.
the only question I would have is, because I was kind of thinking that we could probably afford it out of this budget that we're currently in to replace it now. But I thought the 12,500 was put in the next budget, so in case something happens to one of the other cars?
Actually, it was put in there, I thought it was put in there to split out between 2 years to purchase a vehicle.
That's what I thought.
And I
okay.
think if you're going to have it in, something in there for future, I don't think it needs to be 12.5, but I think you need to figure out how much you're going to be putting in there, setting aside, if you will, for.
In case we would need.
Your next vehicle
Yes.
that's gonna.
Right, but we're not gonna do it
Like a
unless.
capital improvement
Or
type.
Right.
something fun, yeah.
But we're not gonna use it unless something happens that
Right.
it's not worth repairing, right?
I'm sorry.
So we still need to put something somewhere.
Can she set up, capital improvements where we can build
See,
money
she's been
for?
paying attention.
For replacing another
Vehicle.
vehicle.
You don't have money in this year's budget to buy a new vehicle?
No,
This
we're
year's,
not.
we've never budgeted to replace.
We're just
Right.
talking about, if we do the
Future.
escape, we don't need to do anything.
Right.
Okay.
However, is there a way that we can budget so much every year so that you can build up a fund to purchase a vehicle?
There is, but, that's, Department of Management now, on all the forms, that would be allocated money, we'd have to have a resolution stating this is what it's going for, and it is separately out, and what are we talking, $20,000? Is it really?
We could always do it like Phil done it that one year. He budgeted 12.5 one year and then 12.5 the next year, and then bought the car and paid for half of it one year and half the next year.
Mhm.
And the dealers will do that?
If you buy it at the 1st of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Carrie has told me if it's out of this budget year, it has to be done before June 30th, and if it's out next
Sorry
year,
about
don't
the
Jane.
don't do it until July 1st, right?
But that's what Phil done. He budgeted 12.5 2 different years.
Mhm.
And that's what we were going to do.
Right.
But what we're trying to determine is when the next vehicle's up for
Yeah,
replacement.
exactly.
What's
So-
the other? How many miles is on the other vehicle?
Oh, there's 2, and right off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. But they're both older cars.
What do you consider older? Mine must
It's all
be,
relevant.
mine's probably ancient.
What
Hey, it
year is
rained,
yours?
didn't
it? 2000?
Yes, you are ancient. No, your vehicle is. I'm trying to think what the years are. They are 2002, maybe.
So in other words, if you leave 12.5 in the budget for this next year, we give you the escape, and then the following year, right before
We could-
fiscal year ending, you buy a new car and then budget 12.5 for the next year, you could have your, replace the other vehicle.
Replace one of the other two, yeah.
If needed.
Yeah, if we need it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do it if we don't need it.
Is that right, Terry?
So we're leaving the 12.5.
Leave it in?
And
If we
For this
give her the
year.
escape this year,
Okay.
and then put 12.5 in the budget for next year, and then if she needs to replace another vehicle in 2016, then she can put in for next year's budget,
The other.
or the
Okay.
following year's budget, put another 12.5 in there then.
if we
Okay.
don't use it.
Sounds good.
Okay? Okay.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I
So
was
we-
out doing a supervisory visit,
So what we need then is we need a motion to put the Ford Escape into the Public Health Department, take it out of the, it was in 11, wasn't it?
Department 99.
89, okay.
So moved.
Okay, the motion's been made by Bell, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Kaufman,
And you
any
just
more
want a
discussion?
car.
Didn't think we needed it anyway. when it was there.
You can stop and pick up the keys if you want.
Roll call. Bell.
Just not the gas key.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Smith.
Just not the one.
Bell.
The gas
And
key.
Dearborn aye, so take care of it.
Good morning.
Good morning. Talking about the compensation study,
I just have a note.
okay?
Don't
What's the
shoot
note say?
messenger.
What's the note say?
Gary had to leave for a family emergency, and it was a question about his budget. His note says his deputies have 65 years of experience. Code of Iowa says they get 85% of his salary. Gary said deputies have most of the responsibility, so he needs 85%, not changing his budget.
Okay. And he's got that in his budget now, the 85%, right?
I think so.
Yes,
Because
he does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What
he's
does
saying the
the-
Code of Iowa says you have to pay 85%.
I don't know that, Carrie. Do
That's
you?
the way it sounded, and I know the code doesn't say that.
I think the
He's
code
just
says
giving
you
you a
can
hard
pay up
time.
to.
Okay.
You're doing good,
You're
Sandy.
doing
You're
fine.
doing good.
What does it say about county attorneys and deputies?
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
able
think the code
to,
specifies you have to pay a percentage.
Up
because
to.
it-
up
'cause
to
Groove-
85%.
Because Groove
Yeah.
even said, when he did comp studies for other counties, a lot of them went to hourly wages.
a lot of them do.
Took there are no deputies,
But-
you know.
That's what we needed to know, what was on Gary's mind, so
Yeah,
that's.
that's what's on his mind. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then before they adjourn, I'll call you back in if they wanna go into Stanwood drainage.
All right.
All right?
She knows all the answers anyway.
No.
So now, we've heard from all the elected officials as far as the comp study goes, right?
Right.
Carrie and Melissa both budgeted as the comp study.
Mhm.
Everybody else is budgeted without the comp study. Maybe it's-
That last revision the sheriff did was per the comp study. That's why his went down some. So his current salary that is inputted, that reflects on these sheets, is per the comp study.
Just to,
So in other words, he dropped his budget $24,333. I thought he increased it, if I said. This revision that he brought in is with the comp study?
Just today, you're gonna notice his salaries are different, his FICA, his IPERS, on each one of those functions.
We did get that,
He did that yesterday.
we got that 210,000 changed to 21,000.
Yeah. Damn fingers. And I guess the only, I know it's a tough decision again, I mean, this year is very unique year just with all the changes throughout the year, but, not speaking for Melissa, just for myself, I went along with what the board wishes, but by all means, very bad taste in my mouth if you allow them to have the percentages and then you want the recorder and myself to go with the comp study too. I personally think it needs to be all or nothing for everybody.
I
Yep.
kind of agree.
So, and if, by all means, we still have time, you need more time to think about it, that is fine. Do you want me to do other numbers? And I know it comes down to the principal. I crunched the numbers. The money is not the, you know, it's not that much variation. But I know it's the principal. I totally understand. Like I said, it's a tough decision.
Carrie, is the issue that Warren brought up about the person with supervisory duties making is there any way to rectify that without impacting the comp study numbers? What Warren came in and talked to us about this morning?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean,
The problem
everything-
is that during the comp study, they were all supposed to put exactly what their job descriptions were and exactly the jobs that they did. And now all of a sudden, I'm sitting here, and that's after putting time in on that study, I'm hearing, well, we didn't know about this, and we didn't realize that we would be involved in it, and we didn't realize this was gonna happen. And it's not just Warren's department, it's all of them. And then when they had time for appeal, the only person that came in and appealed was Jeff.
So the remedy is for him to go back the next year when we have the appeals process.
And have us
and go
redo
through
the
appeals
job
process.
description, make it more accurate.
Right.
All in all, though, I mean, it's based on 8 different criterias, and it's their responsibility level, regardless whether you're an investigator or a chief deputy. There's a lot of similarity there. So, I mean, from how the job descriptions were read and how yeah.
And then the other question I have, and this more for, well, you two were on the comp study, is there a difference between, in Jeff's situation, of having a person with
I'll bring up my same complaint that I had when we did the study. My issue, especially with county attorneys' offices, is the amount of education for that particular position is way different than it is for somebody in another department. And the problem is if we don't keep that in not necessarily an exact science, but to compare to other counties surrounding us, but into at least counties that are our size or a little bit over, we're not going to keep quality people in our county, because if you're an attorney, you can make a whole lot of money somewhere else. And he's already running into that with losing good people in his department. And that was my argument previously. I mean, they've got student loans that they've got to pay off, and they're going to go where they can do that. And I hate to see, when we have a small county attorney department, which is 2 people, I hate to see us put ourselves into that position. Now, I brought that up in the study, and you know, I don't know. My problem is I wasn't in at the tail end, so I don't know exactly where he got his comps from. I don't know. You know, I guess I have some real questions about some things and how we got some numbers on some of the stuff.
And everything's very unique. I mean, we can compare and compare and compare, and
Right.
it's just.
Right.
I mean, that's just like, for instance, my position. My position is the same as the recorder and the treasurer. They don't have the financial responsibility I do. You know, it's just all, but you know.
But 8 years of required education is a pretty glaring exception to all the various deputies that I think is a justifiable exception. Just raw numbers and cost of getting there.
Which I understand, you know, at the board that time for the compensation study wanted all positions evaluated. And from the get-go, I said elected officials and deputies should not be included, simply because of what the code states. Although I know you have the trump card, you have control of our bottom dollar of what you're going to allow me to operate my office. So.
To me, the only way that you can really go with the comp study is to cut all the elected officials down to like 1%, and then give the deputies a 1% increase. And that's not fair to the elected officials.
No.
I guess if we're going to stick to the process, basically, I'm going to go back to the only one who came in and appealed, and the only one that followed, to a certain extent, our procedure. Now, if we're going to reevaluate every year, if there is an error in job descriptions or whatever, and they want to come back and reevaluate for that next go around, I guess I would be open to that a little bit more. But I understand people making mistakes and making errors, but we gotta find that happy medium of, we paid how much to do that study?
Brad, I haven't heard anything from you.
Just listening.
What's your opinion?
Well, and then you got the other factor of the independent boards. We know where the comp study was on that, and
Well, we always knew that was gonna be voluntary compliance.
yeah.
And I'm actually quite surprised that we got the compliance for everybody we did. I never thought it would be, I thought if we had 75%, I'd call it a success. I'm just amazed at everybody's.
So.
Brad, I haven't heard from you.
What? What'd you say?
What's your opinion?
Well, I'm thinking we probably should stick with the comp study. I think it's just gonna open up a can of worms if you go this way and that way, and I mean, the county attorney, he's got a good thing, a good argument there.
And he went through the process.
Yeah.
I mean, he
Understand
went
that.
through the appeal process. When they make the appeal, who do they make that appeal to?
To the compensation committee.
Okay, and are we at liberty to know what their justification was in denying his appeal?
We didn't deny his appeal. The county attorney, the assistant one, actually moved up in ranks.
So to get Adam up where he.
But it's still not at the percentage level.
Right, and I guess that's where I'm coming
The
in.
percentage is the rub.
Jeff said to when he got bringing Adam up to, it was gonna be what, $3,000 some dollars, am I right on that?
I mean, he basically said he'd find it somewhere else.
Yeah,
if he
I
had
know
to.
he said that.
Why didn't he, in his appeal, why didn't he ask for the amount of money that would equal the percentage level that he's asking for?
Because sitting on the committee, we don't have the dollars. We're doing our job by ranking it correctly.
Okay.
So he had changed some things in the job description. We found out, it was very detailed. I bet you he was down there with the assistant for at least a half hour.
Okay.
Because we were trying to ask him questions and get the answers, and then we fluctuated. But yeah, we don't know what the dollars are. We don't know where everybody magically appears, nor do we want to.
It's strictly based on.
Because all we're there is to read that job description, listen to the person, say, okay, we understand. You know, instead of a 5, it should have been a 6, and everything. So.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of disgruntled people. I think we've already seen that if we stick with the comp study, but I don't know if we have a choice.
John, what's your opinion?
I've voiced it before, I think we have to stick with the comp study, because if you don't, you have too much variance, and these folks are just gonna have to go back to the compensation study and the committee next year, and you know, I feel bad for those that aren't where, I mean, I tend to somewhat agree with some of them in regards to their offices and so forth, but it's what we've adopted, and I think if we vary from it, might as well throw that money down the drain, and because we're varying off of it.
If the board, Wayne, could I make a comment on that? I mean, just throw in something from my perspective. As one member of the public, I think you're right. I think John's right. I think the rest of you expressed that. I think you need to stay with that comp study. I think you gave everybody a good opportunity to appeal the process. The appeal process is done, and they'll have that opportunity next year to make adjustments. But I also think you ought to take a serious look at whether you want to continue with deputy status, because as you go down the road and you raise elected officials, that's going to drag those deputies up, and again, you're going to have that problem trying to maintain deputies at that percentage. Since you got them on steps, I think you're better off just to eliminate the deputy process as much as you can and put them on certain steps based on the study.
I don't think the code will let us do that, Larry.
Pardon?
I don't think the code will let us do that.
The code requires to be deputies?
The
Requires
elected
deputies?
official has all that control.
How did other counties get away from that? I heard somebody say.
Oh, because they don't, yeah, myself, I can go away with deputies,
Okay.
being an elected official. It's up to one's own discretion.
To that elected official.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We
it
allot
has
the
to be done
dollars, it's
through-
up to them.
The elected official has to decide that? That's you, that's
Yeah,
your.
I have that.
You're the one that has the right.
They
We
come to
can't
the
tell you
board,
to do
the
it.
board authorizes it, but the elected official comes to the board to turn in their deputies, how many they want.
So we have no control, it's up to the elected official, which could continue this down the road and be a continual problem.
We set the number of deputies,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
and we could technically, I suppose, set that at 0. It'd be a
Code
fight.
state, yeah, then you're going
It'd
into
be
legal,
an
yeah.
interpretation of the code and stuff
Code
like
says
that.
I can have elected
Well,
deputies.
they went through the
You
process.
set, I was gonna ask you, you set the amount.
So, got a problem.
That costs a lot of
Yeah.
money.
I don't know, but they're the only ones that went through the process.
Well, you can use that.
Yes, Mary.
I agree with John also, and I think, you know, if you vary from it, because everybody, you said, agreed to it in the beginning, if they agreed. And once you break that, you're just throwing open the door and it all amounts to nothing. You've just thrown out all that time that was involved. I guess at some point, I feel like you have to say, you know, if you're so unhappy here and you can't live with this, then you probably need to go someplace else.
My only question with that is, like I said, the county attorney's department was the only one that went through the process correctly. And he was the one that came in and appealed yet again. And I guess I am more I'm more likely to bend in that situation because they followed the process correctly than I am in any of the other situations, as much as I would love to give them all what they want. I think it's following through.
Can you safely do that without having every county employee in here crabbing?
Well,
Saying you made
based
it-
on
you
the
made an
process that
exception.
they went through, the accurate process, you heard the sheriff admit that he did not go through, I mean, as
Who
much
else?
as I hate to say that, he didn't go through the process.
Who else went through the process of appeal?
Jane was in there, the assessor was in there. Oh gosh,
And what were the results of all those?
the majority of them stayed the same. Actually, the nurses decreased after talking
Well,
to
and
her.
actually,
So.
Jeff can find that in his budget too, he said.
Well, and that's what, yeah. Now me not talking financial person, be an elected official, right. We find it in our budget, we can do that, we have that right. And
Which
that,
means their
and now
budgets are
being
too
on
high.
the financial part, that is gonna be a nightmare.
Mhm, exactly.
So, you can see what position I'm in right now.
Switch gears. Did you need something, Jane?
I just grabbed back information about the vehicles that we have.
Okay.
We have not going the Impala, because we're gonna get rid of that. A Taurus, that's an '06, that has 66,000, as of the end of December, 66,606 miles. The Malibu is an '07, which has 68,073 miles, and then now the Escape, an '08, that has 58,300.
All low mileage.
You're still doing
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, so, you know, as far as, you know, when I look at the Impala that has 185, we should be able to get a lot of years out of the.
Well, even
six-
if you don't budget it, you gotta keep that, you've
Yeah.
got 3 of them that have mileage about the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
So that could create a bubble. I mean, you could have a
That's true.
mushroom issue
Everything
there where
goes
they all
to
come at once.
pot all at once, yeah. But
Okay, thank you.
just let you know that. Did you guys keep that? Greenery?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's good. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm a little surprised Paul Groove couldn't have seen this coming.
I saw it coming, and that's why I voted against it.
I mean, you paid him good money to help with this study. I would have thought he would have anticipated this
There's
kind of.
always anticipation. What are you supposed to do about it, Larry?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, did he make the compensation study board aware of that situation and how you?
I think we were all aware of that.
I voiced it from the beginning.
I think we were all aware of.
Yeah.
So.
What could happen.
Of what.
But there again, we were only privy to the information that we were given by the employees and the department heads.
Yeah.
And depending on how seriously they took that, now the fiddler's playing. I mean, it's a case, and that's why there was the appeal process in there. That some of them had helped, some of them had hurt, and some of them.
Well, you're talking like it's a complete failure. I don't know if you're saying that. I think there's bumps in the road with it.
I'm just saying, Paul Groove, being paid what he was, should have been able to advise you and the compensation study of the potential problem. And I don't think, when I was in here when Paul Groove was presenting this, I never heard him comment on that.
We all knew that.
We brought up some problems, but.
Let's take 5, I'll get you some water.
And again, it's a unique situation. You
I-
have a chance to talk to them. There you go.
Okay, as I went by Sandy's office there, she asked if we're gonna be around this afternoon, because she was gonna go to dinner, and I said, yes, we'll probably be in the session this afternoon, so she's, I stay with Drainage District, she'll come back later with that, so. So what we need to do is decide what you're gonna do with the comp study.
Careful, Slick.
Oh,
man.
That shit kept up anyway.
Too late.
And I'd even thought, and I told Carrie, what if we take and say, okay, this year the deputies stay in, as deputies, they get the percentage, but next year they go on the comp study.
Kicking the can.
Huh?
Kicking the can down the road.
Yep, that's right, but you wanna step on the can and crush it now, or what?
What could, is your idea behind that, Wayne, that Warren would, have his chance to appeal, but it still wouldn't deal with, to me, the best argument for an exception to the comp study is Jeff down there. That still would not, a year would not help that situation.
No,
right?
it won't.
No.
And the other situation is in some of the other departments, you are allowed to get overtime. Okay, in that particular department, you have a job to do. Rather, you're here working on your case over the weekend, you're not making a dime more than you do on a regular basis.
And the thing of it is, on a deputy, all the other deputies, Carrie's deputies, all the other officers, except for the sheriff, do not get overtime. They're salaried. And most salaried people don't get overtime, So you talk about the hours that the assistant county attorney puts in, he don't get overtime for it, but the deputies down there get overtime for it.
But in your situation, Carrie, with the other departments, if they are working overtime, they're not working overtime, do they get comp time? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're able to do the comp time thing. I don't think you have that luxury in the county attorney's office. I think if they're working on something, they're working on it. It's just the way it is.
And I haven't read into the code that much on the sheriff's part, but in the code, when you're a percentage of an elected official, this is why I do not pay overtime. And my deputies, whatever the percentage is, that's all they make. There is no more. Same like with the county attorney. That is your true deputies. They are salary. So now, and that's where you got to differentiate, because down there they're patrolmen, they're deputies. Okay, they're Cedar County law enforcement. But for when it comes to
but
wages,
they're not patrolmen. They're deputies according to their job.
Right.
I mean, it's just a difference in words.
Yeah. So see, I don't know what the code dictates on that. I really don't. That I can't tell you for the salary wise. I think it's just something that's always been that way, always done that way.
So if we leave everything, go with the comp study plan right now, next year they'll have a chance to maybe fix some things with the appeal process, maybe?
Well, I guess
Or
along
not.
with that, it may fix it. You're never gonna make up the increase of $3,000 or anything unless you have, different comparables. Unless the board would, ask Paul to go
Well,
out and
and
do
it-
your comparables again,
Mhm.
and you tell them where you want him to do it, because that's what people are saying, different. I don't know, being on this study, I didn't ask for that information, but someone must have. I would hope they weren't dreaming it up, but anyway,
Should we, have Paul meet with us next Tuesday afternoon?
I don't think it's gonna be something that can be done yet this fiscal year for budget. That takes a while, because you're at the mercy of them giving you the information. It's like pulling teeth for your private industries, because they don't have to tell you how much people are making. So, it's not gonna help you in this budget year. Next year, make everybody feel warm and fuzzy and show them what, is going on, if that's what it takes. But
I think we just stick with the study the way it is, the numbers as they came in, as a reflection of that. We tell, as a board, we tell the compensation study committee to take a hard look at addressing some of the issues that popped up this year, and they can, those department heads that have issues can go back next year, and hopefully the committee can work through some of those issues. I think it has to stay in that order and stay out of this room, or we've defeated that purpose. And the future compensation study, if it's an ongoing process, and that is our intent, and it was the intent to start with, if that's the way it's going to be, I think we have to honor that and continue it that way, because if we intercede at this point, it's opened that door.
What you gonna do like with VA board then? They don't wanna follow it.
We deduct that amount of money from their budget.
That's what we're gonna talk.
If we do that, then they'll lose the $10,000, because it'll drop below the threshold.
Not if they put the administrative money back in there like they should have had, which we've requested.
I thought we were gonna talk to them Tuesday and try to work some things out with them. In the middle road with them.
Right, Brad, but I think you wanna stay consistent, and whatever you're doing with elected officials, you need to do with this unique situation too.
Well.
If you're gonna go with the comp study, you go with the comp study, regardless of who it is.
I guess before I make that decision, I would like Paul to be here, or I'd like to talk to Paul about it.
You want Paul here next Tuesday?
I don't know if he's gonna be able to come next Tuesday already, but.
When do we have to have this finalized by? Do we have another week?
Yes, you do, and that's why I say, you've got time.
You want to have to check with Paul and find out if he can be here next Tuesday afternoon?
That's up to the board, if you want him to come in, or if Don has questions for him.
I can call and talk to him, but if I call and talk to him, I'm wanting him to email us what his responses are, just so that everybody's privy to the same
Well, then we should have him in here and
information.
And Tuesday we got a department head meeting, he could even be here for the department.
I don't want somebody saying, well, he said this and she said that, so.
I think we need to see about his availability on Tuesday.
You want to check and see if Paul is available next Tuesday?
You got time.
And we'll be narrowed down by Tuesday to
you're
5
fine.
or 6 decisions. So.
Yeah, you're all right.
I got the lunch you wanted, is that?
Well,
almost
maybe
had
after the department head meeting, well, after lunch, the
Or-
department heads can come in too.
Well, this is the other thing, if Paul's available by speakerphone, is there any reason why we couldn't just talk to him this afternoon?
That's true.
Department heads aren't here, though Gary isn't here. If you wanna talk, you want department heads in on it.
I think at this point, the decision's moved to us. We're the
Yeah.
ones that have to.
Yeah, what'd you say,
We
go?
know what the
I mean-
department heads think at
He's
this
not
point.
answering his phone with that voicemail.
Just ask him if he could
Both lines,
I'll have him call.
yeah.
have him call my cell phone, he has it.
I got
See if
his
he can
number on my
call
cell
us
phone.
back,
Paul,
or
this
be
is
available
Deb,
this afternoon.
and I'm calling for the Cedar County Board of Supervisors. They would like you to call.
Let's just all start
You wanting me to
calling.
call here or you?
What's it-
We
what
all
number
blow
are
up
you
his
gonna
phone,
use?
he'll get the point.
563-271-7561.
Did you see the posting?
Okay, I'll try to call him myself.
Might be a negotiation.
Heard about it.
Let us
Tell him to call back here.
Call the auditor's office, 886-3168.
Public health?
Mm.
What was
I was
asked?
thinking of calling his cell phone number, but I might have.
Is Paul around?
Oh, got a
Yeah,
different
this is
number
what
than
you're,
I do.
Cedar County.
I don't know.
Sounds like you gotta get his number
I
back.
better get it the second number, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even have a second number.
I have
Just-
7561, that's what I have.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we left a message on his regular phone, but,
Oh, it's probably his house,
called
his
his
home. Yeah.
Oh,
He's
I don't have
gone.
that.
so
I don't have
he
that
calls
number.
back and then.
He's gone.
So-
His wife is no
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Probably
This is what
doesn't
he's on
want
my
to.
one sheet copy,
His
so I'll
wife
call
don't keep
back.
up with him.
Will you have his home phone?
That's why they got caller ID.
I
Talk to
texted
his
him.
wife.
Okay, there you go.
7561, is that what you have? That's his cell phone.
And I got his voicemail.
He's
He'll
at
call
meetings
back.
at Winnebago call.
It's pretty much
So
an
he
elected
calls
official,
back
and
in.
just like your other
It's on
boards and
there.
commission, you have power over the bottom line.
Yep.
She's gonna have him call
So,
after
yeah.
lunch, 'cause I didn't
Yeah.
tell him a time. Okay.
Right. Definitely.
Well, we really can't do much more now until we find out what you wanna do on the comp study and the
Nope.
elected officials.
Nope, that is fine. The decisions you made today, I will put those in there and run some more numbers and see what happens.
Okay.
How about,
Especially on the
how
rule.
about the comp
Yeah,
board?
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
I'm kinda anxious to see where we're at on.
Okay.
Compensation board.
Compensation board.
And let's
Well, you
see.
mean for elected officials?
Can we talk about the compensation recommendations?
Oh, by all means,
That's
yeah.
the
You do whatever you want.
last big one.
Thanks.
I'm just a bystander.
No, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't any entangling circumstances why.
What do you wanna talk about the compensation board?
Well, are we gonna accept the recommendation, lower it, make an exception for the supervisors? Those are all issues we can talk about.
The recommendation was 5% to everybody. If you cut anything, you gotta cut them all alike, but the supervisors can be cut separately. You can't add. What's anybody's comment?
I'll make a motion as far as the supervisors, that's what you want, to freeze our wages. Maybe I'll get a positive letter to the editor in the paper if I do that, which I've done that, I think, the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay, that motion's been made by Brad that we freeze the supervisors' wages. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Kaufman. Any discussion?
I think we've done that, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah. Good fun.
Thank you. If you're gonna cut the amount of hours that you work per week, that's a good suggestion.
Well, we've done it for 3 or 4 years, so there's
Yeah.
nothing new here.
Yep.
Roll call. Brad.
Aye.
Kaufman.
Aye.
Val.
Aye.
Smith.
Hi,
And Deaver Guy, so.
I'm glad to find out I only have to work 1 day a week.
We only
Because
could
that's
wish.
news to me.
Yeah, that's not accurate, we know that.
One day in the county, building in here.
Well, that wouldn't be accurate either, but, what about
the other ones?
Now, see, we don't know about those. We never hear about those.
What?
All those other meetings, all those other places.
That's what we're talking about when we go around the
Right
table
here.
at the beginning,
Yeah.
where we talk
But we have no
about,
idea how much time you put in.
well, yesterday it was about 14, 15 hours.
Well, that's fine, see, we don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, that, got enough. Let's talk about the elected officials. The salary recommendation was a 5% increase. My feeling is this is the first time that the compensation board has come in with a decent increase. Most of the time they come in with a higher increase because they know we're going to cut it. A few years ago they came in with a percentage increase for some and dollars and cents for the others, and it was very hard to control that. So I feel that this is the first time that the compensation board has come in with a reasonable figure.
Did
That's
the
my
comp
opinion.
study take a look at that, didn't it?
Huh?
The comp study took a look at elected officials too, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't recall where.
So how does the
Honestly, I didn't even look at that.
I didn't pull that information up.
I know they worked really hard this year. I was up there and a lot of research was done. And see what the rest of you think about it.
Jeff?
I know there's been some resentment in the past because we haven't listened to them. That's the reason why I agree with you on the Veterans Board. I think it was a much more reasonable figure, but I think we need to know what the comp study said on this too as well. And then
Carrie, is there any way we can get those numbers?
Yeah, I can give that to you.
Is it going to be real complicated to get? Okay.
No, I can do that. But again, you're looking at different comparables. We have our own board to give you guys a recommendation.
no, I know, so does the Veterans Group too. So that's what I'm saying. It's
A little bit different. A lot different.
It is and it isn't.
I think the comp study though, or the comp board, I'll get it right. I think the comp board did try very, very hard this year, and I think at least there was a meeting I think we were at. Weren't you at that? Who was that? Somebody was sitting by somebody. So you? Anyway, the comments that they made when they made those recommendations were that they were trying to make the recommendations reasonable so that we wouldn't always come in and cut it.
I know some counties follow. I don't know, but I don't think there's a lot, but some counties follow and go by the comp board's recommendations to a T. And I know that some years you can't do that. They're kind of all over the place, but this year they worked really hard. If you continue, I think, not listening to them, that sends a message to them too.
We've been sending a message out to the state level that this comp board shouldn't be, it's an ineffective tool for most of the counties in the state, but it continues to be the way the system is.
We tried changing that once, and oh my, was there ever a torrent against changing it by elected officials?
And you know, their whole argument was they're just trying to take baby steps to get the elected officials up to where the other counties should or have.
Well, and the idea is you've got people that are deciding that aren't worried about getting reelected. And that's why it's supposed to be a fair and impartial decision.
Oh, you're right, that's just supposed to take the politics out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be years ago that the mayor set the elected officials of the county. They did. Years ago.
Who
I
said
was
their
on that
meetings
board.
in that?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Long
but
time.
that's-
So how can where are the figure, are you gonna see what the comp board said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want it now? Do you want it
Well,
after lunch? What do you want?
Why don't we do
After
it
lunch.
after lunch?
It's up to you.
Okay.
Give you some time to get that stuff. I mean, you're good, Carrie, but you gotta give you a little time.
I'm not
Get the
good.
stuff.
What other major decisions remain besides what we've either done or asked for more? Are we almost there?
I think you're almost there. Rural services, so I have it right. Increase the revenue, half of what was for the general, the $42,420 then. And then libraries to $100,000. Take out the chipper and tractor of $70,000. Is that it?
I think so.
And then your, RC&D and Wilton.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna transfer those.
Okay.
To general.
The Fair Board gets $1,500 more.
Yeah, I'm just worried about rural services.
Okay.
To general. Okay, so I'll make those changes. And all the other ones for all the other funds.
What are the,
And the libraries, didn't you change that?
Yeah, we
Had 100, they're at 100.
Yeah.
what are the, it's not, let me get my thought back here. So I sound remotely.
You're gonna figure the levy and rural services at.
After all those changes, yeah, I can. I'll let you know what it would be.
But you're thinking it's around 12?
So we can get,
Or-
so we get about $300,000
Mhm.
carryover in it.
Yeah.
What are our ending balances in the, what we're doing right now leave for an ending balance in the general sum? Or do you not, that's not a critical figure if it takes too long to figure, but.
I think we're gonna be right around, all the changes that you did today, I believe I have in there for those. I mean,
There
the
won't
little
be much
5,000,
variation.
there's
It's
not
gonna
gonna
be
be
okay.
much variation at all. So yeah, not concerned with those.
So is it correct to say the increase in the levies last year in those funds helped us so that we can maintain the
yeah.
levies now?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, let's adjourn, be back here at 1 o'clock.